This is the magnitude of monetary loss experienced by retail investors during the Great Depression. This is the scale of fraud perpetrated after Enron's collapse in 2001. And finally, that is the amount of cash lost in December 2008 when Bernard Madoff, a former stockbroker and investment advisor, was unmasked as the architect of one of the history's largest Ponzi schemes. But what if I told you that all these fraud and scandals are kids' games compared to a story of a 25-year-old who outsmarted everyone and defrauded some of the brightest investors, fund managers, politicians and celebrities of a whopping $65 billion. This individual is Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the Bahamas-based cryptocurrency exchange FTX.
It's fair to say that by anyone's life, this is one of the biggest financial frauds in American history.
Today, announcing charges against Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of cryptocurrency exchange FTX.
This astonishing story, filled with the high-stakes events and a dark secret, full of mix of mind-blowing violations at every level. A romantic polygamous relationship, drugs, and it just blew my mind and imagination. I dedicated 4 months to uncovering the complete picture of the most massive fraud in the world history. I wanted to understand how the entire financial world could be fooled by a nerd who spent more time playing the video game League of Legends than studying the financial markets. That's a question worth answering. The childhood of the biggest financial villain in recent times may not seem too surprising. In fact, it appears rather typical for well-educated white American family. He was the son of 2 Stanford law professors. He grew up reading Harry Potter, watching the San Francisco Giants, and listening to his parents discuss politics with the West Coast academics. He studied at the Ivy League institution, MIT, where he earned a degree in physics. And according to his peers, he half-assed his way through the bachelor's degree, spending more time playing video games like StarCraft and League of Legends than studying.
I play games, I play chess, I play chess variants with coworkers. I daydream, I play badminton.
Upon graduating, he was hired by Jane Street Capital, a reputable but comparatively small firm in New York. I searched and checked hundreds of sources but found nothing extraordinary about this period of his life, a typical, uneventful story of a kid from a white-collar family. However, there was one detail that would dramatically impact his future and his inner circle. During his time at MIT and Jane Street, he forged friendships with people like Gary Wang, Nishad Singh, Carolyn Ellison, and others. Remember these names. These were the formative years when he built a network of people who would later become his best friends, housemates, co-workers, partners in crime, and even a polyamorous partners. So how did he go down the wrong path? When he became so greedy and delusional? I didn't find the answer I was looking for in his childhood. But I noticed that all the connections he made during his university years played a more than vital role when he started making money. What would you do in 2017 if you had a degree from the best technical university? Wealthy parents who always supported you, possibly some savings in your account, and lived in one of the most innovative hubs in the world? Yes, of course. You would found a startup. Bingo! Sam Bankman-Fried did precisely the same.
Hi, my name is Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm the CEO of Alameda Research. We're a quant trading firm and liquidity provider in the cryptocurrency ecosystem.
When he started his first company in 2017, it was a small startup in Airbnb apartment in Berkeley with $1 million of investments from friends and family. They began working in arbitrage trade. Gary Wang and Nishad Singh from his inner circle were on board. Alameda in Spanish word meaning a public walkway. And he wanted to make a complex buying and selling easy for his clients, a good intentions for a bright MIT graduate. But they didn't last for long. The more one eats, the hungrier one becomes. Together with Gary Wang, Nishad Singh, and a beautiful lady, Carolyn Ellison, they spotted a fantastic loophole, the kimchi trading loophole. You might not know what the kimchi trading loophole is, but it's easy to understand, even for a 5th grader. Step 1. Check crypto prices in Korea. They are high. Step 2. Check crypto prices in other countries. They are much cheaper compared to Korea. Step 3. Buy crypto around the world and sell in Korea at a significant profit. And voila! Your kimchi trading is done. Garnish with lots of profits. However, exploiting this loophole is more complex than it may seem due to several challenges. First of all, capital controls. South Korea made it difficult to move large amounts of money in and out of the country. And a second problem, regulatory requirements. South Korea has implemented stringent know your customer and anti-money laundering regulations, make it challenging for non-residents to operate accounts on South Korean exchanges. But SBF managed to facilitate all the different components involved in this trade where others couldn't.
It was a huge amount of logistical work. Like finding the trades was the easy part. The hard part was getting the accounts, sending wire transfers, opening up entities, and all of the other sort of operational. You need capital, right? You need an account on Coinbase. You need an account on Bitstamp. We have a lot of offices for regulatory reasons. As an example, we have a new Tokyo office, but our biggest offices in the United States is Chicago, and outside the United States is Nassau on the Bahamas.
So essentially, they based the entire foundation of Alameda Research on a loophole. And it was a very, very lucrative business. But there are still many rumors and questions about the source of capital. Sam Bankman-Fried had to run millions of dollars, and you must have backup and external financing to risk hundreds of millions of dollars daily.
Some estimates would say $1 billion in revenue last year.
Numbers are reasonable,
And it would help you if you also had a good partners with an excellent relationship with US regulators. That may be why Carolyn Ellison became CEO of Alameda Research. She was an intelligent lady, but it seems that one of her most valuable assets for SBF was the fact that her father, Glenn Ellison, was the department head of economics at MIT and had previously reported directly to Gary Gensler, the current chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Yes, the SEC, the law and order for the whole crypto world. And guess what? It was a huge success. All gears work as one mechanism. So well, Alameda staff sometimes had to stop work to swarm foreign exchange websites because they couldn't convert Japanese yen to dollars and Korean won fast enough. Pride and greed were their main motives during that period.
Man, oh my word.
They reaped the benefits of loopholes so much that they moved their operations to Hong Kong in 2018 to work faster in the same time zone. And nothing could bring their success to a halt, except for even more greed and pride. And one accident. In 2018, Alameda's first big trade succeeded, earning the firm profits between $10 to $30 million. However, Alameda's automated and a very risky trading algorithm began to make the wrong calls on the price movements, incurring losses for the firm. Then, the more and more heart-wrenching events unfolded for SBF. And that marked another critical moment in this story. Someone else in this situation would have simply fixed the losses and continued to do business more traditionally. But by the time SBF had already tasted money and wealth, they couldn't stop, and SBF came up with the idea to save Alameda. He only needed to execute this idea to attract even more investors and money and garner even more attention. And that's the moment when we are coming to the birth of the monster, FTX. With the financial crunch looming over its head, Alameda and SBF began seeking new lenders and publicity. A crucial role in this plan was given to a new company.
So after that, you started another company, FTX.
Yeah. FTX, you can think of it as infrastructure. It's markets infrastructure, so everything that sits between a buyer and a seller.
In early 2019, SBF launched FTX after getting inspired by the failures of several exchanges.
FTX, that's the crypto app, right? Now it's for all kinds of investing. It's better.
The main aim was to build a platform that would cater to institutional investors looking for a safe place to do business. A pretty noble goal.
With FTX, I have everything I need to buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
After its launch in April 2019, Alameda became the exchange's primary market maker. And by the end of 2021, the investment arm made markets in altcoins including Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and FTT. This backed the firm a profit of $1 billion for 2021, with all cryptocurrencies making new record highs in the bull season.
One feature of Alameda is our willingness to do whatever is good to do.
When we buy stock, we're bidding for it, and when we sell stock, we're offering it. We're not feeding into the momentum that really increases volatility in the marketplace.
Alameda also onboarded Carolyn Ellison and Sam Trabucco as its co-CEOs toward the end of 2021. Do you remember the list of his old friends? Yes, the same good old friends in every position. So FTX became a center of attraction for money, the main wallet of his empire, a company that collected checks from investors. But it wasn't enough if you want a crazy fast monthly growth and billions of dollars in accounts. You needed something more, you needed an idea that would attract the minds of the wealthiest in this world. And Sam Bankman-Fried desperately needed more and more blue-chip investors to speed up his game plan and fuel his greed. And some investors or thought leaders he just decided to buy. No, I'm not kidding or exaggerating. Starting from 2020, Bankman-Fried became a prolific political donor in recent years, giving almost $40 million in publicly disclosed contributions to Democrats and Republicans.
Had to make massive donations to politicians and political organizations on both sides of the aisle in order to look legitimate and look credible.
Oh yeah, well if I pulled out my phone here and just looked at my last 10 text messages, about half of them are going to be people asking for, politicians asking for contributions.
Sponsoring hundreds of events worldwide where they distributed their investment pamphlets to recruit new investors. But for the second group of wealthy, influential people who were rich enough not to take SBF's money bait, he started selling the idea of something bigger, something different. And that's where we hear about effective altruism for the first time. Here I need to explain something and take a step aside. What does effective altruism mean and why I'm talking about it?
My goal has been to find ways to have positive impact on the world and to maximize that. And to do so by supporting some really fantastic organizations.
When people in power want to lie you convincingly without you realizing they are lying, they use such a fancy words to intrigue you. Get into your head and open your mind and assert control over you. They essentially confuse you into believing them. They share a great idea with you. In short, they begin to pontificate to you and use derivatives while filibustering the entire time. So similarly, effective altruism is a fancy way of explaining a philosophy that urges people to make more money themselves to help more people with that money. It's like an excuse to make more money.
Because if you earn a lot of money, you can give away a lot of money. And if you're successful in that career, you could give enough to an aid organization so that it could employ, let's say, 5 in developing countries. So you can quintuple the impact by leading that kind of career.
You know, I mentioned effective altruism here not accidentally. You will see very soon how it helped him open many doors and build the biggest crypto firm in the world.
He had this idea called earn to give, which means you make money and become rich so you can help the world. Earn to give.
Do as much good as I can for the world. I'm part of an effective altruism community. Basically, it's a group of people looking to try and figure out if you want to maximize the amount of good you do, maximize the positive impact that you can have on the world.
This exciting idea of altruism captivated celebrities, politicians, and billionaires. I even found evidence that even Elon Musk had a chance to speak with SBF, and another person approached Elon Musk with this effective altruism idea.
To be honest, I never heard of him, but then I got a ton of people telling me that he's got, huge amounts of money that he wants to invest in the Twitter deal. Talks about effective altruism. And I talked to him for about half an hour. And I know my bullshit meter was redlining. It was like, this dude is a bullshit. That was my impression. There was something wrong and he didn't have capital and he will not come through. That was my prediction.
Everyone, including major investment banks, was talking about him like he was working on water and had $1 zillion. Elon Musk was quite smart not to swallow his bait. But what about other investors? Let me give you an example. Sam Bankman's father, Joseph, called his old student Bravo, asking him to help out his young and lost son with opportunities in Miami. Orlando Bravo, a prominent VC founder, met the young and lost son to check out his company. And when they met, Bravo realized that young and lost son was in the process of raising $900 million Series B funding round at an $18 billion valuation.
Things that we could meet just with their normal business operations.
To $18 billion, a far cry from the $1.2 billion valuation.
How are you thinking about this valuation and how do you justify it, aside from the fact that investors are willing to pay it?
Yeah.
This round attracted some of the giant sharks in the VC industry, such as Sequoia Capital, BlackRock, and SoftBank. Hearing those big names, Bravo couldn't resist joining this investment opportunity. That's how the VC industry works, and that's how Silicon Valley networking operates. Nobody wants to conduct rigorous due diligence if they see a list of highly respected investors. As Bravo started due diligence for the funding round, they needed clarification on FTX number. The 2-year-old startup was on track to earn over $200 million in operating profit for the year.
And you're doing something like $400 billion worth of volume per month.
Staggering margins for an early-stage growth company that would typically lose money. It was too good to be true. Bravo was blown away, but fear of missing opportunities didn't let him pass on it. He invested more than $125 million in the round in June 2021, becoming one of FTX's largest backers. Yes, just like that. $125 million with just one call from a daddy dearest, and tossing around a few prestigious VC names. It all seemed so easy. Typically, getting VC founders of this size to back you is more complex. Now, let's clarify one more critical point in this mind-blowing story. A venture capitalist buys a stake in an entrepreneur's idea, nurtures it for a short period, and then exits with the help of investment banker. So they are supposed to or must conduct thorough research on the entrepreneur and their idea to make an investment decision. That's the core of their business. Partners of venture capital funds who give money to VC firms are typically large institutions such as pension funds, financial firms, insurance companies, and university endowment funds, all of which put a small percentage of their total funds into high-risk investments. But what happened with FTX? Well, the simple answer is nothing. The more complicated answer is that for FTX it was somewhat different. SBF pulled strings early on and connected with some big names in the investment world. These massive investors backed SBF without really checking the company's health. Of course, FTX looked good on paper, claiming a net income of $388 million in 2021, up from just $17 million a year earlier. And there was a story that one potential VC investor who raised doubts and asked pointed questions was told to
take it or leave it.
Some sources even claim that analysts from VC funds who inquire too much about SBF risk losing their jobs if they try to warn firms against investing in FTX. He had bamboozled them all.
I think we're pretty ambitious about FTX, and certainly we're aiming to become, the biggest crypto exchange.
Since its launch in 2019, FTX has raised $1.8 billion and was the most recently valued at $32 billion at the end of 2020.
So the global cryptocurrency exchange FTX has reached a $32 billion valuation after a $400 million Series C funding round.
I hope you remember during this time the market was hype, overvalued and bullish. Everyone was happy, only good news circulated and everything was grown.
Between 15 and 20 million, I think.
So you may ask, were all these investment firms the main cause of FTX overcapitalization and overhype? Of course, yes. They closed their eyes because everyone else did. It was a period of cheap as dirt money during the COVID era when the Federal Reserve stimulated the economy, a period that later would be called helicopter money. But there were other partners in crime. We still don't know all the details and terms of their cooperation because of ongoing criminal investigations. These new partners, they knew how to find a way into your mind and your bank account. What do I mean? Here is the deal. If you want to go to mainstream, you must sell differently than you sell to savvy financial investors. Your mom or your high school friend may need help understanding fancy financial jargon. But let's say if Tom Brady, the famous American football quarterback, appears on the screen and tells you to trust investing in FTX. You'll believe him more than jargon-filled reports from a Bloomberg prospects, right? What if Kevin O'Leary, the famous TV show celebrity from Shark Tank, promotes FTX like it's his own venture? Naomi Osaka, Steph Curry, the list goes on. Who hold them responsible for supporting a house of cards? And you can do whatever you want with all this support and a god-like media presence and promotion. You can even promise a 15 annualized fixed rate return with a no downside. You can throw words and numbers in the air, spitballing with no strategy or proof how this would be achieved, and everyone will believe you. And you may ask why? Why were so many people so naive? Because we don't invest in FTX tokens, Alameda or any crypto. We are betting on SBF, on words from celebrities about him, or talks about FTX from highly popular YouTubers. He became a star overnight and he didn't have the patience to build the trust with the public. So he bought it. He literally added people's faith to his shopping cart and threw money at the problem. So by investing in PR and brand management, he successfully built a colossus of PR, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. In the age of social media and short attention spans, he knew precisely how to hold his audience attention. He sanctioned paid puff pieces about himself, making him look like the ultimate god. And with investors' money, Sam Bankman-Fried made FTX the name and the face of everything. He made the brand unmissable. UC Berkeley Stadium was named after FTX, a partnership with Golden State Warriors, and merged from a Formula One team, the NBA 8 campaign, and a 10-year contract with the Cal Golden Bears. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. He made generous donations left and right. He began to seem like he had everyone in his pockets, and the world blinded by his love and highly effective altruism. So, what could go wrong, huh?
Inclusion in the billionaires list is really notable because, for one thing, the only person in the world that has ever gotten so rich so quickly is Mark Zuckerberg.
Partnerships and our market share all continue to go up. We've been the fastest growing exchange by far.
Largest exchanges in the world. FTX collapsed this week after a leaked document that raised questions about the company's finances.
I'm serious. What could go wrong if you have billions of dollars in your account and the PR status of highly respected financial guru? Well, it's the wrong question. The right question would be whether the company has this money, or was it just a myth? No, I'm seriously wanted to understand, where did he keep all this money? Where were all these $40 billion? In his accounts? In his home bunker? And to find answer, we must understand the difference between hard money and FTX token called FTT. Clients brought money to FTX and expected some returns in the future. They deposited this amount in specific FTX accounts. And without the client's permission, you cannot transfer them to other speculative accounts or any kind of proxy accounts. FTX had to keep them, and only clients had the right to transfer their money. Technically, if I deposit $100, I can withdraw the same amount, period. No way to cheat. But this equation becomes very different if you introduce a proxy currency like FTT token. Because you issue a token, which is a proprietary token currency, Alameda and FTX can control much of it. And from that moment you are buying some new currency that looks like a dollar, but it's not. But Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX were committed to buying back FTT tokens to prove it's safe. Trust us, we will buy it back anytime you want. And you may ask, was a purchase of FTT tokens like a buying stock in a public company? No. In the case of stocks, you have at least public company that issues stock, a public stock exchange, a public audits, and a quarterly reports, rules, stock commissions, and regulations. The exact value of FTT was speculative from the beginning.
I also think, frankly, that it's a better market environment for private companies than for publicly listed ones right now.
Why do you think the public markets are punishing them while the private markets are rewarding you?
And it was clear that it was very tied to the performance of FTX, which is important because we will get to that later. They built a whole scaffold on FTT tokens, which was very shaky because if confidence is lost, the values go down. When the values go down, more trust is lost, and this goes on. So it was like this flywheel that, when going well, facilitated huge amounts of growth. When going wrong, it results in exchange death spiral. So that's the answer to where all FTX money was. Among America's 50 wealthiest people, he was remarkably cash poor. Forget Swiss bank accounts or well-balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds. Virtually all his wealth was tied up in his ownership of about half of FTX and more than 11 billion worth of FTX publicly traded tokens, which can be used to make payments or trade discounts on the FTX exchange, like a gift card or store credit. He also held a few $1 billion worth of other cryptocurrencies he is backing. So the bottom line was that he might have been the 50th richest in America, but only on paper. And one more question: what could go wrong if you have the best crypto company in the world run by a dream team, the Ocean's 11 team? That's the wrong question again. The right question to ask: who are they? What do we know about them? In 2021, it needed to be clarified. The most astonishing aspect of this story came to light when I decided to look into what everyone called SBF's Inner Circle. This entire inner circle of 10 friends lived in an amazing 30 million house in the Bahamas, and they were said to be in polyamorous relationship. And it seems like he likes to mix business and pleasure. But I don't care about this private part of their lives. I care about how and who runs a 40 billion company. And all the companies under the SBF were run by close friends. They had access to client assets, the most critical information about the company, and they could share this data with each other.
Big issues in this crypto bankruptcy is how customers' funds from FTX were used for investments by Alameda Research.
Though he said publicly that Alameda was just a regular user on the exchange, the firm ran up a bill of $8 billion buying stakes in startups, trading on credit that no other user could get. Much of that money belonged to FTX's customers.
It's such a massive conflict of interest. What could go wrong, right? Take the most controversial person, Carolyn Ellison, for example. She comes from a good family, but she became famous for her Tumblr post on polyamory and hierarchy and amphetamine use. What a great set of skills for CEO.
Yeah, like, this is terrible.
Plus, everyone who worked at Alameda thought she was very underqualified for the position of CEO. In podcast with a Spanish language El Momento, she infamously said many of her trades relied on intuition and God. That's who was responsible for billions of dollars of hard-earned savings.
Yeah, I guess there are a few things a good trader needs. I think like being good at sort of not necessarily advanced math, but mathematical thinking, kind of being comfortable with risk is very important. Being kind of fairly, especially crypto trading. You never have all the information, so you kind of just have to make your best guess based on what you can see.
But this is not the worst, trust me. Every company is supposed to have a chief compliance officer to ensure that the business is running in order and legally and there is no conflict of interest. And with so many problems already, shouldn't the CCO have raised some red flags and say, "Hey Sam, full stop"? He should have. But again, SBF picked the least compliant person ever to be his CCO. Dan Friedberg was the CCO, and if you look at his employment history, you'll find he was a lawyer in online poker cheating scandal. And as a chief compliance officer, he advised his client to cheat. Need I say more? Well, bad habits die hard. His run-ins with law enforcement continued even after FTX. In August 2022, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation (FDIC) sent a letter to Friedberg and ex-FTX US CEO Brad Harrison to cease using marketing language that could have been incorrectly interpreted as saying that the federal banking regulator insured the exchange users' accounts. But they weren't. They just made it sound in the marketing materials like they were. So let's delve even more deeper into his inner circle. There was also issues with Nishad Singh's girlfriend, the head of HR. Every time anyone questioned what was going on, they would just conveniently get fired. So this inner circle had a tight grip and complete control over the operations of not just Alameda Research and FTX, but all its subsidiaries too. The stronghold was so strong that none of these investors were on the board. It was just our golden boy Sam Bankman-Fried, his best friends forever, Gary Wen, and a lawyer with no real power. Sounds like quite an aristocracy. And this aristocracy gave them the scope for discrepancies. Because FTX and Alameda were closely linked, Alameda traded heavily on the FTX platform, meaning it sometimes benefited when FTX other customers lost money. Yet another glaring example of a conflict of interest.
According to a source familiar with company operations, the quant trading firm founded by Sam Bankman-Fried, Alameda, was using customer funds from Bankman-Fried's crypto exchange, FTX, in a way that flew under the radar of investors, employees, and auditors. We spoke to sources who say FTX and
Alameda was supposed to operate out of a separate office, but a guest who visited FTX complex months before the collapse said Carolyn Ellison had been sitting within view of computers displaying the exchange's trading data. And this gave them clear information for insider trading, and no board of directors meant SBF had backdoor access to both companies to change code according to his will. Ellison's job was to buy FTT tokens on various platforms to increase the price, making the FTT collateral against Alameda's loans more valuable. That in turn made it possible for Alameda to borrow even more.
We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. I'm trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money.
But it wasn't just his co-workers who were sketchy, even the auditing firm was sketchy. A simple Google search reveals Prager Metis LLC provides tax, auditing, and advisory service to the entertainment and music industries. Music industry? What a good choice for the most prominent crypto firm with billions of dollars in its accounts. It also surfaces more spicy fare. The company announced plan to open an office in Decentraland Metaverse and will sponsor an upcoming Metaverse party. An auditing firm should be auditing in the real world, not living their lives in some fantasy land. Neither Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, nor Deloitte was chosen to be their auditor firm. If you ask why, the answer is self-evident. So with no real auditing happening, SBF and his inner circle blew through $40 million in just 9 months, between January and September of 2022. 15 million of this amount was spent on luxury hotels like the Grand Hyatt and Albany Hotel. They also used private jets to deliver Amazon packages to Bahamas. Amazon Prime VIP. All these fun and games weren't going to last forever. There would be consequences for their actions over time. But the consequences for SBF and his friends showed up earlier than expected. Planes never crash because of a single failure. It's always a series of events. In business, it's the same. One of the first unexpected events was the increase in the interest rate by the Federal Reserve System. After 2 years of free lunch and throwing money from helicopters, the Federal Reserve System decided to start increasing the cost of capital to fight inflation.
The interest rate is going up for the 7th time.
To raise interest rates for a 7th time this year.
Without talking about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX and that meltdown in the crypto exchange.
Which peaked at almost 8%. It's very easy to forget that the Fed was holding the federal funds rate at around zero as recently as first quarter of 2022. So, in one day, the stake on the clay feet began to crumble.
How is it possible that you overlooked this more than $5 billion problem?
The domino effect for the FTX empire had been launched. The largest outflow of money from the crypto market had begun. But Sam Bankman-Fried still dreamed of effective altruism, neglecting the new reality.
We are a company whose core belief is that people with passion can change the world.
The dominoes of their decisions started falling even more intensely when SBF decided to be the Robin Hood who saved the day for the fast-falling crypto market. On a lending and acquisition spree over the course of 2022, he spent nearly $2 billion to help struggling companies like Voyager and BlockFi and acquire insolvent firms to prop up the industry. Even more, under his supervision, FTX also invested in Modular Capital, a company founded by his ex-girlfriend. It was a long list of bad investments after foul. Investing in these companies was a big gamble. In total, he invested in more than 100 different small crypto firms, and almost 99% of these investments were unprofitable. The irony is that in an interview with CNBC, Sam Bankman said, having trust with consumers that things will work as advertised is incredibly important.
Customers know what was important for people to be able to operate in the ecosystem without being terrified that unknown unknowns were going to blow them up somehow.
And if broken, it's tough to get back. What a beautiful poker bluff. But in reality, everything was completely different. In May 2022, when the price of crypto began to crater, some big lenders and investors wanted their money back. He directed that customer deposits be sent to the lenders to keep them happy. And just like that, Carolyn Ellison used that money to pay Alameda's debts. Hard-earned investments of FTX customers paid off the debts of Alameda and its terrible investment decisions.
Trade where I've lost a ton of money.
When customers deposited their money on the cryptocurrency exchange, instead of holding some safe assets or buying the cryptocurrencies that the consumers wanted, FTX used their money in entirely different ways without even informing them. FTX was lending money to Alameda Research. And what did Alameda do with it? Alameda then bought a cryptocurrency called FTT, the token issued by FTX, a token that people use sparingly in exchanges to trade. FTT token had no intrinsic value for millions of clients. So FTX, Sam Bankman, Alameda Research and his inner circle of friends were using the customer's money to buy only valuable things for the person issuing the FTT and getting dollars in exchange. And who was that guy? Right, Sam Bankman-Fried. While I'm not a legal expert, this sounds like a fraud to me. It sounds like you are using other people's money to do things they didn't want you to do just so that you can get richer. So in late 2022, when FTX was one step away from catastrophe, when the water was already flooding the hulls of this Titanic, and it was necessary to escape and somehow save the customers' money urgently, Sam continued to play the savior of the crypto market. He was publishing a lot of tweets telling people what they should and shouldn't do. His stupidity and arrogance knew no bounds. So someone just had to teach him a lesson and sink him. And that person became his biggest competitor, Changpeng Zhao, commonly known as CZ, a Chinese-born Canadian businessman, investor, and software engineer. Zhao was the co-founder and CEO of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange by trading volume as of July 2022. I'm sure many people knew the chronological order of how CZ crashed FTX. I don't want to repeat it. But what you don't know or didn't think about is how this was all possibly well played by SBF's biggest competitor, CZ, to cover up their mishaps. Binance was possibly in the same boat as FTX about misusing customer funds and probably didn't want their story to come out. For example, over the course of 3 months in early 2021, Binance engaged in suspicious activities. Meanwhile, in some allegations from regulators and US senators, the company facilitated at least $10 billion in laundered crypto to criminals and sanctions evaders since its founding. So it appears that money laundering was central to Binance's business strategy, so much so that Mr. Zhao himself has directed his so-called compliance team to weaken the platform's anti-money laundering controls substantially. I think it sounds logical that CZ decided FTX would be a great distraction now. All CZ had to do was set the proper traps and the right triggers. And here we go. The trap was set on November 2, when the crypto publication CoinDesk reported on a leaked document that showed Alameda Research held an unusual large amount of FTT tokens. And the first trigger of FTX catastrophe was initiated. The bomb started ticking. Binance announced on November 6 that it would sell its FTT tokens due to recent revelations. So obviously everyone panicked and FTT's price fell as traders rushed to pull out their money, scared that it would be another fallen crypto company. The withdrawals amounted to approximately $6 billion over 3 days. And now FTX needed more money to give back to its customers. But unlike real hard money, they only had FTT, their own tokens. They were trying really hard to sell the FTTs which no one wanted to buy. And on November 8, Binance said it had agreed to bail out FTX by buying the company. But CZ added in the announcement, Binance has the discretion to pull out from the deal at any time. What might have seemed like CZ was their knight in shining armor turned out to be the second trigger for FTX collapse. Because then suddenly, on November 9, Binance announced the tweet that shook the world. Binance said it would no longer buy FTX, saying it had arrived at the decision as a result of a corporate due diligence. CZ also cited regulatory investigation and reports of mishandled funds. And with that, a ticking bomb of FTX and its founder Sam Bankman exploded. Boom. November 10, the Bahamas freezes assets of FTX, and SBF says Alameda Research will also have to shut. November 11, FTX files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, and SBF steps down as CEO. November 12, FTX reports an alleged hack and says it lost around $477 million, so its digital assets are moved to cold storage for security reasons. December 12, SBF is finally arrested by Bahaman authorities. And what was sold to all clients as the best and most reliable place for investment, as a citadel of reliability and the center of the crypto world, collapsed in one day and crumbled like a house of cards. I only just scratched the surface of this whole scandal. There are so many unanswered questions, and we must ask the bold ones. Because, as we have learned, we can't trust mainstream media, politicians, or even investors. Why did Sequoia Capital, an experienced VC fund, ignoring glaring red flags? How did no one scrutinize SBF's business dealings? As I delved into the FTX saga, these questions haunted me. Will the SEC and Gary Gensler face the consequences for neglecting the unregulated market? SBF manipulated numbers while the SEC chased publicity, focusing on the Kardashians, Ethereum Max coin, instead of Alameda Research and FTX. Someone may know one more answer. I'm talking about famous influencers who wrongfully praised SBF, reaping profits from FTX promotions. Are they accountable? Andrew G, Meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, and others who promoted FTX using their multi-million channels, receiving big bucks from FTX. And I'm sure you want to know who produced the record-breaking $250 million bond with SBF's companies in shambles. Where did these funds originate? Or it's good to know if FTX orchestrated this under our noses, what secrets lurk within Binance? And lastly, will the customers ever recover their investments?